Hey, welcome all. There's an app for that series, Australia and New Zealand. Thanks again to Kit for coordinating and taking a lead with this, with others from the Brisbane community. So I'm Geoff Metha from the Canberra community, or Canberra chapter. So we've got Samie. Samie is from Gliffy, but Samie's got two roles. Samie is a community leader, but today I think, Samie, you're talking to us as your role over at Gliffy. So I might let you do a quick intro.
Yeah, absolutely. So Geoff is correct. I am the community leader for the Twin Cities, which is Minneapolis and St. Paul in Minnesota. It is 9:06 p.m. here. So I'm really happy to catch you all during your lunch breaks. This time works really well for both of us, I hope. And then in addition to being a community leader in the Twin Cities, I'm Gliffy's product manager. Gliffy is one of the most popular diagramming apps in the Atlassian ecosystem. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how Gliffy can support your team today, but then also more broadly, just great use cases for diagramming in Confluence. So whether you're a current Gliffy customer or you're using another tool, I hope this is a helpful session.
Beautiful. Thanks, Samie. That's great. So what format do you want to take? You're a huge fan of the Atlassian products. So how are you going to present?
I am going to do my best to share my screen right now, and I'm hoping we can jump into Confluence presenter mode. So we see in my demo space there.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. All right. And let me jump over here and into presenter mode. How's that looking for everyone?
Wonderful. It came through.
Awesome. Okay. Give me just a second because I totally lost our window as I did all of that. But now I hope I'm in good shape. Maybe not. Beautiful, I think.
Okay. You can see demo space. There's an app for that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Great.
Okay. I'll stop saying beautiful now. So this is there's an app for that series. And what I want to make sure everyone is doing is getting people on the same page fast. This is a little bit of a pun because I'm a massive Confluence nerd. And this right here that we're working out of is the same page. So a little bit of a high-level overview for you. We're going to talk about Atlassian's system of work. This is a new thing that they've been talking about. I'm so sorry, crew. I totally jumped into this. Housekeeping notes, please drop any questions in the chat. I will get back to them, but it's going to be a little hard for me to check those while we're in action. Geoff may interrupt me with any of your questions.
I'll do that.
Beautiful. Okay. So any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat, but I'll do my best to answer those as we go. And then we're going to try and save some time at the end of this session for questions as well. So that's your housekeeping note. We're going to talk about Atlassian system of work. This is a new phrase that Atlassian has been introducing, referring to all of their products together. And then we're going to talk specifically about geeking out in Confluence and how Confluence can be the best knowledge management tool for your team. I love working for Gliffy because we're a really powerful Confluence add-on. So I'm hoping that whether you're using Gliffy or not, I'm going to have some helpful advice for you. We'll cover some best practices for knowledge management in Confluence, and I'll also show you a little bit about how you use Gliffy specifically. So that's what we're up to. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I'm going to get started. Atlassian's system of work is built to address a few different pain points today. And those are that modern teams, people that are trying to work together just to get just about anything done, consistently struggle to find information. They're dealing with work happening in silos across their organization. I don't know what my marketers are up to. I don't know what my engineering team's up to. I'm over here in my product silo. Knowledge is not well documented. So you run into an issue and you have to find the most senior employee to help you address that challenge. And then we are still learning to work asynchronously. I was joking with Geoff earlier. We were having some audio issues as we were logging on. So all of those things contribute to inefficiencies as we think about trying to get work done together today. Atlassian's system of work is meant to address that. And this is a framework that they're introducing across different types of teams and people that are working in this ecosystem. But really what it comes down to is there are products that serve specific teams and specific use cases. And then there is a teamwork foundation that integrates and flows throughout all of these things. Confluence is a really big part of that, and that's where I've told you guys I'm geeking out. When you get this well implemented, there are some really cool bits. Atlassian has seen a 50% reduction in time spent searching for information, a 35% reduction in irrelevant interruptions. I don't know about you guys, but I get those like, hey, Slack messages with no context. It drives me crazy. And then a 25% reduction in product duration. So teams that are effectively implementing all of these tools are working faster and more effectively together. Now, this includes tools that you've probably heard a lot about, like Jira Service Management, Jira Align. I'm really geeked out about Jira Product Discovery as a product manager. But then when you take those tools that are kind of siloed or for specific types of teams, you create integrations that work as a foundation across all teams. And that's Jira, Confluence, and Loom. Jira is project management, most popular for IT and software teams, but expanding beyond those core teams. Confluence is your knowledge management hub to make all of these things happen. And then Loom is a video capture tool that Atlassian acquired about 1.5 years ago that they've been increasingly integrating with these products so that you can work asynchronously even more effectively. So that's the high level overview of what's going on in Atlassian land for anyone who's not familiar. Now, making all of these things work together takes a little bit of work. And if you want that realization of a 25% faster project completion time, you have to make sure that that teamwork foundation is working across your teams. So this is where the pun of this presentation comes in. If we want to get everyone on the same page, we really need to embrace knowledge management. I truly believe Confluence is the best place to do that. I have loved working with this tool for over 5 years now. And when I was working on my MBA and learning a little bit more about knowledge management as a high level business principle, I got so geeked out. So I'm always really happy to share some of these best practices and some of the things that I've been learning about knowledge management with you folks here. Now, that was a lot. I'm going to do a quick check in the chat for any questions. I'm not seeing anything right now. I'm seeing Geoff shake his head. I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, we're in good shape.
Okay.
Oh.
So I will keep rocking and rolling. When we talk about knowledge management, Confluence is a great place to build your knowledge hub or manage all of that knowledge. And when you think about tacit knowledge is the things that your team knows how to do, even though they're not well documented. And so part of what we need to do with Confluence is create explicit knowledge, things that are clearly outlined for everyone. So an example that I love to give here is my fiance's grandmother has a recipe for chocolate icing. And this recipe has ingredients written down, but no measurements for these ingredients because you just add cocoa powder until it looks right. And that's really hard to replicate, but that is totally tacit knowledge. A different example would be maybe you have a product that is integrated with some other thing and the login for that product is over here. And then there's this quirk over here. And only your most senior employees really know how to handle this integration. That is tacit knowledge. And that definitely poses a risk to your organization when you think about your ability to continue doing business in an effective way. Because those employees that have that knowledge could leave your company, they could need to take a leave of absence for a health or a personal reason. There could be layoffs. There could be a lot of different things that happen. Your organization benefits from having that tacit knowledge documented. So I'm glad Kit likes that example of chocolate icing. You want more detail than add it until it looks right. You want photos, you want examples to make all of this work. And so as we talk about creating a really effective knowledge hub, there are some best practices and there are some places where the app that I work for, Gliffy, can really support your team. So I have 3 examples that I'm going to show you today. I am going to jump out of presenter mode so that I can show you these examples. So we're back into normal Confluence mode here. And within here, I have a link over to a knowledge base article. This is something that you guys might have published in your own internal knowledge base, which would be a FAQ or some sort of a high-level informative article that would support your employees. And I've got a few different things going on here. I created a lot of this content with ChatGPT, I'm not gonna lie, so we can clean this up even further. I just hit E to enter edit mode on this Confluence page. And there are a few things that are going really well in here. The first is this table of contents with emojis, little icons to support you. But you'll see that down the page, I didn't actually go and make all of these in H2. So one tip that I have for you guys is as you're creating content in Confluence, go ahead and make sure that you're appropriately using headings so that everything is associated with your table of contents. I'm trying to think of what emoji to put here for an accidental click. Let's look for a cursor. We're going to do the curling stone because that's what came up when I started type cursor. And so you can see that that automatically added this item here in my table of contents. So being really thoughtful about how you structure your content in Confluence is really valuable. So here's another one, wire phishing emails dangerous. I'm going to go ahead and make that an H2 and add a caution sign. Maybe not, maybe a cone. So I'm trying to use this shortcut, which is to type a colon and then find an emoji that fits it. I'm surprised there's not like a traffic cone emoji, but then you can see that that automatically populates up here in your table of contents, which makes your content really navigable. Now, the other thing that's happening on this page is I have actually made a little flow chart or a decision diagram with Gliffy. And this is intended to help people identify and determine what to do if they think they've found a suspicious email. I'm assuming we are all relatively familiar with phishing best practices, so I'm not going to spend too much time on the details here. But what I am going to do is add an H3 and say decision tree for assessing a phishing threat. And here you can see we have this Gliffy diagram just totally embedded on this page. I'll update this page. We'll take a look at what this looks like for the viewer. Here it's loaded in. And what this does is it makes your content more compelling. Atlassian has done a lot of research around the inclusion of images, diagrams, visual content on their pages, and they have found that people who are using content like this on their pages receive more engagement and the content is more memorable. So Atlassian's own best practices dictate that you really should be adding content like this to your diagrams. Now, here's that Gliffy diagram. Let's go ahead and edit it. And I'll show you how easy it is for us to make an update here without introducing a ton of additional work for your team. So I have a few bubbles that say report the email to IT. I could be more specific here to be more helpful. So I could say, do not click these links, report the email to IT by emailing ithelp@company.com. Let's go ahead and resize this, just to make it look a little nicer. And we will go ahead and put the text. Whoop. There we go, looking good. And so I can go ahead and really quickly modify this. I'm going to copy and paste and connect this to there. That green dot tells us that we are connecting. And we'll do the same thing here. Duplicate that. And we've got a green dot connecting. So you can see just with a what you see is what you get style editor, I'm able to modify this information, make it more specific for my teammates, and make it more actionable. I'm going to click save, and we will hop back to Confluence and see that updated version of our diagram. This will reload, and here you can see we've got that instruction to report it by emailing a certain team. Now, this is awesome. This is a great example of documentation that's actually accessible to your team and is actually going to help your teammates make better decisions. Obviously, I would go in and make sure I've got the full table of contents built out with the headers, but we are moving quick today in this demo. Overall, what we're doing here is we are making this content more accessible, more visual for your team. If you had this all listed out as text, honestly, people would skim over it. Like, let's not kid ourselves. So I love the opportunity to make this content more visual because we do know that it will be more memorable. Now I'm going to hop back to our original demo space, and maybe I have to go back a few more. Here we are in there. There's an app for that demo space. Now that's kind of a basic use case for Gliffy, which is adding basic diagrams inside your Confluence pages. You don't have to jump over to a different tool and get started, but there are a few really cool in-depth features of Gliffy that set us apart from like the native Confluence whiteboards content. One of these is data linking. So when you think about the types of documentation that your team may need to be making, you can consider different use cases like process diagrams, cloud architecture diagrams, and I've got a network diagram example here as well. Depending on your audience for the content here, you may need to flow different types of data into your diagrams. And we just introduced a new feature that makes that a lot easier to do. So here you can see on each of these workstations, I have a little bit of detail about the model number and the user ID that these are assigned to. And these are actually coming from over here in my data linking panel, a user ID that's associated with each of these, as well as the type and the manufacturer and the asset ID. Now I can tell that these are linked by the little icon here. So when it says MP 2023, I have a link icon. I can click this and it selects it in my diagram. Let's say I created a new workstation for this user, and now the asset ID is actually KP 2024. I changed it here in this chart and it automatically updated over here as well. So this is a really cool way where when you are using diagrams for really detailed use cases, you need to include things like model numbers, or I think I have a condition assigned to these, but maybe there's a last service date. All of these things can be very easily updated where when you make an edit to your table, and I could go in and copy and paste new content to this table here as well, it will automatically also update in your diagram. So if we switch this from a Dell computer to an Apple computer, right over here, we see that updated. I can switch it back. Right over here, updated as well. Now I can also add additional content. So you can see over here, I've got the printer. Let's go ahead and clear out those pieces of content and reinsert them. So I've got my printer, I have my manufacturer. I can drag and drop this data directly into my diagram here. That yellow highlighter on this text tells me that it's part of my table over here. And then we will go ahead and also include the asset ID printer. I can also edit this text just like other text elements in Gliffy, for those of you that are familiar with Gliffy. So I can make it larger, I can make it purple if I need to. Whatever I'm up to, it is fully modifiable. And then if I change anything over here, so we go from 315 to 375, again, automatically updating in the table. So this is a really cool way that you can add a lot of detail to your diagrams without a ton of work. I'm aware of teams that have things like item IDs, asset IDs, model numbers that are really tedious to add to their diagrams, but they do want to include that level of detail. So this is a really cool way that you can very quickly include and incorporate those things just by dragging and dropping that content onto your canvas and then being able to keep it automatically updated over here in your table.
Okay, so I've got a couple of questions.
Yes, please.
So I've got some about data linking, but Tamara's raised one earlier, so I'll quickly go to that. It's around accessibility. So how is Gliffy recognized, or does it read out with like a screen reader? So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tamara, that is a really great question. The honest answer that I will give you is that this is an area where we can certainly improve. Your Gliffy files are rendered as attachments on your Confluence page. So I believe to a screen reader, you would get basic information such as the file name. I would love for us to get to a point where you have a more detailed readout of what is happening within that diagram. So looking at this one as an example, being able to automatically generate a description of this is a diagram which describes the server's router and wireless network of the Alameda office. Right now, I believe the description that you would get would be that this is a Gliffy diagram titled Alameda office and very little additional detail. We would look for the user to populate things that kind of register as alt text for this diagram. So I appreciate the question, and I know that that is an insufficient answer from an accessibility perspective. It is something I've been talking about with my team.
Yep. Cool. Okay, so back to the data linking functionality. I see it's a CSV that you've got there at the moment. Is it only CSV you can work with, or?
Yes. So we implemented this as CSV in the springtime. And we have been looking for additional feedback of other integrations or interesting things that we could do to support this functionality. So right now it is CSV only. In the future, I could see us linking to a SharePoint document or a Google Sheet with the appropriate permissions, such that when that updates, so say you make changes to A6 in your Google Sheet, it automatically updates your diagram as well. Those are things we're all scoping. So if you're interested in those things, I'd love to be able to give you guys like a +1 on my product roadmap so I can make them happen.
So I might give you another one. So just from an integration with Jira Service Management and the assets that we have there, and being able to link that and being able to go, something's got a problem, we've got an instant on this one, visually being able to see that. And I think that from a, I think there's lots of opportunities there for linking up, and also for linking, even if it was a CSV or a database, Atlassian's database functionality in Confluence, being able to link up to that. But anyway, cool. But this is really,
you're speaking my language. You're speaking my language. Guys, being a product manager is so hard because you get so many good ideas and you can't overcommit. So what I will tell you, Geoff, is you are absolutely speaking my language. I love the idea, and it is something I'm talking about.
So the last one there is have some luck with Rovo in regards to creating a Rovo agent to populate that data. Rovo agent to populate from an accessibility point of view of what the description is. So Grant's actually got a question associated with this. The asset example would be great to work with Asset Manager for Jira with the asset management for Jira. So that's an app, I think, rather than Jira Service Management assets. Would that be right, Grant? A specific app that's there. Yep. Cool. Now, Samie does have a question as well. What's the funniest or most unusual thing you've seen someone use Gliffy for?
Okay, I do have a good answer here. Thank you, Kit. I have seen someone use it to plan out their garden bed. So they knew that they had a certain amount of space. They knew that they needed like 6 feet of space for this tomato plant and that their bean plants needed 1 foot of space each. So they created a really rough, I can show you, but like a really rough plot of basically where are my basic shapes?
God, I could get my dad to understand with his garden bed. The crop rotation for carrots, tomatoes, etc. Okay, and I can see that working with data linking. Okay.
Perhaps it could. Especially if I wanted to say like, hey, carrots and apples is a bad example, cucumber. And then if we know our carrots need 2 feet of space and we know our cucumbers only need, well, they probably need 3 feet of space. I'm a first-time gardener, but you absolutely could do a quick drag and drop scenario here with your garden table to populate all of this information.
Yeah. I could do it with crop rotation as well, yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, you could get really nerdy about it for sure. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that data out of my table after that random use case. But yeah, the Jira Service Management integration is something I'm really interested in and something that I'm talking to a lot of people about, but I can't make any commitments yet, you guys.
Yeah, so I think the graphs that Jira Service Management Assets has is really interesting.
Mhm.
However, if you could spit out something in format in your tool, and people could customize it,
Yep.
that would be awesome.
Yeah, because that right now they give you the ability to kind of visualize the current relationships between your assets, but that doesn't support you when you think about like future state planning, or if you do need to, for some reason, include certain details, you can't really sketch on top of it. So there is definitely an interesting angle there.
Yeah, so I was talking to a friend over in Bangkok, so that's why it was a tax deduction, Samie, who was saying when you get back, we're going to do we're relocating data center. And so you just think about that from a point of view of what rows, what blah, 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 and the as is to state. So yeah.
Excellent.
Love it.
Cool. I have one other cool thing to show you guys. I think we have time, correct?
Yep, we do have time.
Awesome. Okay. So there's one other really unique feature to Gliffy that I think can support your team as you guys are looking at good places to invest in your knowledge management in Confluence. And that is we have the ability to create interactive diagrams. So I'm going to do this, as the note says, live right here without a template to start us out with. I just hit E, which is the editing shortcut for Confluence. And if you haven't ever made a Gliffy diagram before, once you get it installed on your instance, literally all you have to do is type /Gliffy to jump in our editing tool. And you can start from a bunch of different templates right here. You can see I've used a few different ones here. I'm just going to create one from basic shapes. And what I want to show you guys is we can create an interactive diagram really easily using Gliffy's layers feature. So I'm going to drag and drop out my start. This is like a typical flowchart starting point. And what should we make a flowchart about? Should I go to that wedding? I'm planning a wedding right now. This is for me.
I think the answer is yes then, Samie.
I'm getting married in June, and it is definitely taking up a lot of my mental bandwidth, obviously. And so we can go ahead and build a flowchart out from here. We could have steps, we could have a decision, which is typically represented with a diamond. What I'm doing to build this out really quickly is selecting these little arrows that populate off the shape. And so, oh, that was a quirky one. So I can go ahead and build my shapes off of each of these. This would be step 1, step 2. This is decision 1, step 3A, and step 3B. So just really quickly populating a diagram here. Now, all of this is happening on layer 1 of this diagram. And so I can access the layers panel by clicking here. And we'll go ahead and call this the base layer. Now, if I want, I can turn this decision point into a little trigger where we say yes or no to move forward with step 3A versus step 3B. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select these guys, cut them, and we're going to call this decision branch 1. Hit enter too soon. To edit this layer, I'm just double tapping and then paste those in and reconnect them over here. It looks a little wacky, so I'm going to do it again. Beautiful. So here I have decision branch 1. You can see if I turn it off, it's gone. And then on this one, I'm going to do the same thing. And we're going to have decision branch 2. Paste it in. We'll get it connected. Looking good. Here you can see branch 1 and branch 2. So from my decision point here, I can go ahead and I can create a little button that makes it so that I can see just branch 1 or just branch 2. And so I'm going to go ahead and add a yes button here. And I need to make sure I'm doing this on my base layer. So we have a yes button on our base layer. Bring it to the front. And then we'll have a no button also on the base layer. And this is going to dictate our decision as we work our way through this branch. Now, in order for me to make this diagram interactive, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this yes button, and I can select when yes is clicked, I want it to show me only decision branch 2 and not decision branch 1. And then over here on no, I'm going to click this layer linking button as well. And I want it to show me only decision branch 1 and not decision branch 2. So that gets a little confusing. But I'm also going to add a clear my choices button. And that one we will put over here. All of this, you guys, is truly just dragging and dropping it. And we'll do this layer linking icon here. And we're going to remove both branch 1 and 2. So I'll click save. I think we're ready to rock and roll. And we're going to call this a decision tree. And this is my super speedy demo. Obviously, you would spend a lot of time working on a more detailed diagram. So here we have it on the page. We'll update the page. And what this does, we're looking at this page now as a viewer. And I can go ahead and click clear my choices over here, and it cleared out those branches in my decision tree. If I reach decision 1 and I say yes, it gives me that next step. If I say no, it gives me that other step. And so this is a really cool way where obviously there are a lot of different diagramming tools out there. You could put images of a diagram in your Confluence space all day, and that would be really good for your users and for engagement in your knowledge base in Confluence. But it's only tools that are totally embedded, like Gliffy, that give you the opportunity to do something really interesting and really fun and honestly really playful like this, where you can give users the opportunity to actually interact with the content on the page. So again, I'm not looking at this as a page editor anymore. I'm just looking at it as an end user where I can go ahead and interact with, pick my own journey through this little decision flow that we very quickly came up with and spun up. Pro tip here.
Yeah, great. And I could see there, Samie, that if you had lots and lots of decisions, like if it was, the flow was really large, you would have branch 1 or branch 2 possibly could be, or decision branch 1, decision branch 2 could be across each other. They go yes or no, and then you saving real estate rather than it just being a really complicated diagram. That's great. Love it. So it's now 1:41, so we've been going for about 35 minutes or 36 minutes because we just start off the hour. But do we have any questions from anyone that they want to add on? And of course, I will just say, so weddings, I was getting married. It was a long time ago, 2004. I used to be a Lotus Notes administrator and designer. So I was working for a government agency where there was 5,000 employees of. And I did an update for the, for everyone's mail database. And all of a sudden, everyone had a wedding folder because I was really quick with it. It's going, just got to get it done quick, got to get this. And then I had to then go through and spend the day of how do we remove a wedding folder when there was about 40 people whose either daughter or son was getting married. And so, yes, it turned into that was a great one for an aspiring manager to have to deal with. The kids got some questions in regards to Barcelona. Anything specific that you'd sort of want to mention from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've mentioned Rovo agents already during this call. If you guys aren't familiar with the Rovo product and what it can do for your team, I would absolutely give it a look. Atlassian announced that is now generally available, and they've published some pricing around it. Those agents are really powerful, and the ability to ask for support within the tools that you are already using, as opposed to needing to context switch and jump into a different tool to give you that input. I think is extremely valuable. So I was really excited to see Rovo go to general availability. I'm also a massive nerd about Jira product discovery. So whenever Atlassian is announcing new features or improvements to Jira product discovery, I geek out quite a bit. So for any product managers that are on this call, if you have not looked at Jira product discovery recently, I would give it a fresh set of eyes. The things that I love most about it are my ability to publish my roadmap and share it with people in my organization that aren't necessarily part of the product or engineering organization. So whether that's embedding that on a Confluence page or publishing a new link to it. And then the integration with Jira is obviously really powerful. I like to avoid Jira to the best of my ability. So being able to, at a glance, see delivery progress on some of our top level initiatives is really awesome. So I think that's Atlassian's most underrated product right now is Jira product discovery. I always geek out when they have new features there.
Yeah, it's there was a podcast I was listening to the other month where they had the lead product manager for Jira Product Discovery. I can't remember his name, he's a French guy, who was describing the process that he went through for building it. And it's quite interesting. If you're interested, I'll send you the link. Our ACE that we have coming up, I'm just going to get the date, I'll paste the link on November 6th, is putting Rovo agents to work with your team with automation. Simon Chan, who will be presenting in regards to how to get the most out of Rovo and automation. So that'll be pretty cool. And the other thing that's pretty cool for me is Simon Chan is based in Canberra. So that's nice that we've got someone. We'll do it online. It'll be a virtual event, but yeah, we'll do a catch up for a beer afterwards. So yeah, that's good. So I've
awesome.
chucked that in the link. I think you can, a lot of the Australian, New Zealand ACE groups co-host. So have a look for it as well for your local one. Yeah, so that's really. Now we haven't got any other questions that have come through, but I did, Samie, just from a point of view of the teams that might be using Gliffy. So we've spoken about it from a point of view of for flow charts, etc. But can you mention any other sorts of teams that sort of use it, or are these sort of use cases?
I certainly can. So I gravitate toward flowcharts because you guys, I have a design and a very business background. But the most popular use cases for Gliffy users really are actually IT and software teams. And so in here, I've got a process costing flowchart example, network diagram that would be kind of more of an IT use case. Then I also have a cloud architecture diagram where we were able to really quickly and easily flow your AWS costs per instance that you're implementing into your diagram, so you can both visualize your cost and the structure of your AWS deployment. That is very nerdy by my standards, but very much a core use case of Gliffy's customers. So more from like a DevOps and cloud ops angle.
So can I just ask on that one? We've got estimated monthly cost. Is that based off the CSV or whatever associated with this? Or? This
is still based off of CSV, yes.
No, but that's good. But that's just so I know. So that's pretty good. So yeah, okay.
Yep, I see where you're going there. It would be really, really cool to be able to automatically link this into your AWS instance and populate those cost estimates or populate that cost over a certain period of time. Yes.
Yeah. But there's so many things you can integrate with, right? So.
Yep. Only so many things I can do.
We can visualize the sales pipeline if you hook it up over into Salesforce. Yes. Anyway, we can.
yeah, you're tracking. We're on the same page here. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, most popular use cases are truly IT and software teams, whether they're focused on the DevOps side of things or like new product delivery. So we are trying to build Gliffy for those. Obviously, when I sit down and I demo it, I gravitate toward easy flowcharts. But some of the most common use cases are actually our Mermaid editor, which allows you to generate a diagram from code. We see a lot of people making Kubernetes architecture diagrams, GCP architecture diagrams, AWS architecture diagrams, definitely more technical use cases. So it is, when you think about teams that are using Jira, they are also the ones that have the best adoption of Confluence, and they're also the ones that have the best adoption of Gliffy. Those are the users I want to make sure I do a really good job supporting. Atlassian obviously wants every team to be using Confluence, and we can be a tool for every team. But where we're definitely focused is making sure you have like the latest and greatest AWS shapes and the ability to really easily generate diagrams from code. Those types of things are definitely my priority as Gliffy's product manager.
Cool. So Kit has another question. What's the worst mistake teams often make with Gliffy or Confluence?
Okay, I demonstrated when I showed you guys very quickly how to make an interactive diagram. We used layers to make that happen. And there are a lot of elements in this diagram, but it's not too busy. I have seen diagrams that are hundreds of different shapes and hundreds of different elements because it is truly like an end-to-end process flow. And I love that people are using Gliffy to make that really detailed, robust documentation, but no one reads that. And so my big tip or a mistake that I see most often is trying to make a diagram that does everything for everyone. I would really recommend that you be thoughtful about the audience, like who's going to actually read and consume this diagram, but then also what can you do to make it more organized or clean it up. Layer linking that I demonstrated can be a really good way to show like the base flow and then add additional detail on top of it for the people that need that level of detail. You could also show like the before and after of a process. There are a lot of different ways that you could use that interactive diagramming functionality to strip away additional detail. Or you can use layers to keep your information organized. You can link diagrams to other diagrams. I think to bring it all back together, the big mistake is trying to make a diagram that does everything for everyone. I think the best diagrams usually have a very specific audience and a specific communications goal in mind.
Nice. I've got to say, most of the time, we're using diagrams to portray architectural solution design, etc., for proposals, or this is how it's going to be looking rather than from a decision tree. But one of the things you're demonstrating on this one is that color and how color matters. Makes the diagram more interesting. Yeah, as long as it's not color just for color's sake, like consistency.
Yeah, absolutely.
So while the rest of my family is artistic, I do a little bit of design. Now, so such as asking if we get access to the demo space for us to have a look at.
So Satya, I apologize. I can't give you access to this space because this is our internal space. What you can do is you can create a free Confluence instance and try Gliffy for free. We're free for up to 10 users. You'll have full access to all the features I showed you here today. So go ahead and get that eval started on the Atlassian Marketplace, and you can use it for free as you get the hang of it. I am also happy, and I should drop my email in the chat. I'm happy to set up a follow-up call with our team if you want us to provide you with some of these diagram files so that you can play around with like the specific layer linking functionality that I've shown today.
Yeah, so it looks like Sachi's got wants to be able to show the use cases to the team. Should also point out we have a wonderful master editor. Their name is Kit, who will make this publicly available. So it's going to be put onto the YouTube channel. So when we email you out, we will put it on. Is that right, Kit? Is that your job as well? Kit often says to me, "Hey, I do other things other than just do the video editing." I know you do lots of things, but anyway. Okay, well, that's great. Thanks, Samie. Really appreciated the different use cases and for walking through the journey and those tips on Confluence. Color, yeah, we don't tend to put a lot of images in the heading, so I'm gonna, Anyway, my team will get a copy of this as well to share. So thank you very much, and look, it's now approaching nearly 10 o'clock. So your time. So thank you very much, and we might end it there.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thanks everyone for joining.